Really, really interesting things happening on the Binance front. Sort of a rash of regulatory announcements against the largest crypto exchange in the world by volume. We've had Japan, we've had London, we've had the UK, we've had Ontario in Canada, all take action or at least announce warnings against Binance in a really interesting development, I think, for that may indicate that similar or further actions are ahead from other jurisdictions. So this is a story that I think I'm watching really closely this week to see what is the next shoe to drop here. I'm going to throw this to you, Adam. I think this story is quite interesting that we're seeing a concerted effort to reel in some of the move fast and break things tendencies that Binance has exhibited in the past couple of years. What are you watching for when you hear some of these financial regulators starting to make some serious pronouncements about Binance?
Yeah, it's actually a really interesting story. So Binance has for sure been sort of the vanguard of the experimental, like opportunist class of crypto exchanges. It's been around for a long time as crypto exchanges go, and it's always played this game of sort of regulatory arbitrage, hopping from jurisdiction to jurisdiction whenever attention is sort of drawn to it there. We've gone down the rabbit hole a number of times trying to figure out where is this company actually legally domiciled? And it turns out to be a much harder question than you would think, probably intentionally so, because the way that these laws tend to work, although it's not universal and certainly not in the US, is that where you are based impacts who can actually regulate you. So the uncertainty around that means that kind of they couldn't be regulated as far as a lot of these countries were concerned. And certainly that was a major advantage to them. We've seen experiments with like tokenized stocks and just like any type of thing that you're like exchange tokens, any type of thing that exchanges have experimented with. Binance has pretty much been at the forefront of those, right down to having their own sort of like DEX strategy that goes far beyond what we've seen any other centralized player go. So, long way of saying that if this is something that grows, and if we do in fact see a more sort of unified approach towards trying to actually nail down Binance on these issues, then it could mean much more of kind of the Binance.us approach to things, where in these regulated countries, they sort of break off a tiny part of their business. And Binance US is tiny compared to the Binance organization as a whole. And try and enter these more regulated marketplaces in a way that is desirable. But I think that that's a major loss for them, and certainly it's a loss for Binance's customers too. Trying to use the Binance.us product compared to the Binance product certainly gives you a lot less fun things to do.
Yeah, just to go down the list here. So, in the UK, the the Financial Conduct Authority, the FCA, said crypto derivatives, no, Binance can't be doing that. Japan issued a very stern warning, and in Ontario, in Canada, it was actually a preemptive move by Binance to stop serving customers there altogether, following recent actions by the Ontario Securities Commission. I'll throw this to you, Jen. What's your take here? I mean, I think this is a really interesting development and could obviously sort of proceed further action. What's your take on Binance?
Well, first of all, we haven't spoken about Canada in a really long time on this show. So
Shout out
thank
to
you,
Canada. Shout out to
Zach,
Canada.
for bringing
problem.
Canada
Ontario,
back
the
into
most
the
populous,
game.
the most populous province in our neighbors to the north. Continue.
So I'm actually not going to talk about Canada. What stuck out to me in the Japan story was that Binance said they weren't actively soliciting Japanese consumers, and they were going to kind of proceed as normal. And it begged the question for me: who is responsible for the users on the platform if they're not actively soliciting them? And how are regulators thinking about this? Like, is a borderless regulation on the cards when it comes to crypto, and how is this going to be implemented, I guess? And I don't think you have I don't think anyone on this panel has an answer for me, but it's just really interesting. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen next, because I don't really think that any of these concerns can be actioned on.
Just jump in there. I think that CZ might have an answer for you. So if you go back to September, he was talking about CDFI. And I think this is kind of the instance where that makes sense, where you have the ability for a centralized exchange like Binance to interoperate with a decentralized finance ecosystem like Binance Smart Chain. And then you still have people have the ability still to interact with these financial products, even if the jurisdictions they're in don't allow them to do it. Of course, like there's going to be a lot of court cases in the future, I think, around this. And DeFi itself is probably going to be in the midst of a lot of court cases going forward. But there is a huge benefit just from the technology standpoint that you can't really pin it down. Like, you can still use Uniswap no matter what. Like, you can still find it no matter if the jurisdiction doesn't allow it. Naomi, your thoughts really quick?
Yeah, just to quickly sum up, I mean, it's interesting because this is the pathway we've seen for the internet in general. How do you regulate things that exist in the ether? Is it where the servers are? Is it where the people who set up the servers live? Is it where the consumers who are using those servers are situated? And so, this in the crypto space, we're really seeing it play out because you have so many financial regulators who are just cracking down. Like, people don't really care if like Facebook's operating somewhere, but as soon as you get finance involved, regulators are like, okay, let's start to figure this out. And I don't think they'll be able to figure it out. I agree with you, Jen. I think that we have kind of broken down these barriers. We have this global economy now. We have kind of this permissionless systems operating, and people can use them. It doesn't matter if Binance isn't available to people in Canada. People can still use VPNs and access it. There are all kinds of ways that people can get around these because the internet really is this enabling tool that allows us to interact with people all over the world, regardless of whether specific governments want that interaction to take place. So it's kind of an exciting world, and I'm interested to see how this will play out.